Welcome to my first vegetable gardening 101. This is episode 3. Today I'm going to give you an update on the herbs that we started in episode 2, answer a couple questions people had. We're going to go over bare root strawberries, how to buy them, how to get them transplanted up so that they're going to be ready to go into your garden. We're also going to talk about onion sets, onion bunches, and the best way to really get full-size onion bulbs out in your garden. Before we get to that, let's just go over real quick some of the stuff that's been growing. I'm going to start shooting some videos called Gardening 101 Tours, where I'll give you just a quick tour of what's going on in my area, either down here in the basement at seed starting or out in the garden, just so that you can see how things that I show in the different episodes are really doing and really growing. Now, the biggest question I had, got a couple of them, is in the overseeding method. This is time that I started back on the 19th. Today is the 25th. People ask me, well, if we overseed the thyme, if we overseed the oregano, do you have to thin these out? And the answer is no. The whole point to overseeding is to get a lot of growth going in these little cells. And when these thyme or the oregano gets to about this size, you pull the plug out, it's overseeded, there's 15, 20, 30 little plants in there. You can either break that in half and put it into a container like this, or you can put it in whole. This is the thyme. This is the oregano, I think, from episode 2 that I planted up into pots. I'm going to show you how to do that real quick. But you can see how nicely that it's growing. You just take the whole plug of oregano at a time, put it into here. If you want to split it in half, you can put one in here and the other half in here. And then when this gets bigger, you can split it in half again and put it out into your garden. So you can take 12 cells of the overseeded thyme, chives, oregano, and even parsley, split it down the middle, that gives you 12, and then when it gets bigger in here, split it down again, and that gives you 24 plants that can go out into your garden. It's a great way to save money, it's a great way to have healthy plants, because remember, when you go to the store and buy these are like anywhere from $2.50 to $4, depending on when you buy them. Here is an example of the parsley that I let stay in these cells. I just don't need all the parsley. I have one planted up in here. And for parsley, I definitely divide it down the middle. So I dropped the plug out. A plug looks just like this when overseeded. Lots of plants in there. And then I just go right down the middle and I break the plug in half, just like this. Don't worry if some of the plants die. It's not that big of a deal because you're overseeding. Now, to pot up, you can use a styrofoam cup. You can buy these plastic containers. I sell these on my seed shop. You can ask your neighbors. That's what I do for these, is just give me all your extra containers when they plant up in the spring. This is cocoa coir. This is a brick of cocoa coir, actually. You can get this for $2.97 right now at Home Depot. And when you add in hot water, always put in boiling water. It kills off any possible fungus gnats. It'll expand to about 2 gallons, 2.5 gallons. So it's a nice way to use cocoa coir. That's what I'm going to use for this. This is my peat moss based seed starting mix. Just fill up the container just about to the top, just like that. Nice and loose, nice circle down the middle. If you wanted to add in some fertilizer here now, you could. I recommend just use the starting mix for now. It's simpler. Half the plug drops right into the hole. Press it in from the side. It looks just like that. Real easy. You don't have to spend a lot of time. You don't have to stress out about being perfect. And then your parsley is planted up. And what I recommend is, instead of putting fertilizer in here, the insoluble type, remember I talked about that. Insoluble fertilizer needs soil life to break it down so that the N, P, and K, the nutrients, phosphorus, potassium, nitrogen, are available to your plant. What I recommend when you're doing seed starts is use a water-soluble fertilizer. That's fertilizer that's immediately ready for your plant to absorb. And you can use an organic water-soluble, or you could use a chemical-based water-soluble. Either one's perfectly fine. And remember, I talked about chemical fertilizers don't poison you. Everything in the world is a chemical. It's just up to you. But feel free to use the chemical fertilizers. Feel free to use the organic fertilizers. There's one broken leaf. So when this is planted in, water it one time now with the water-soluble fertilizer. Try to keep it around a 5.55 NPK. If you're a little above or below, don't worry about it. And then maybe every 7 to 10 days, this will need a drink of fertilizer while it grows. So that's the parsley. Oregano, sage, thyme. Well, actually, here's the sage. I wanted to show you that. So here's the sage that I left in here. Sage you don't overseed because the plant gets so big. So this is thinned down to 1 plant per cell. I probably started at least 3 seeds because you don't want to wait around for them to germinate. When these got a little bit bigger, or when these were just a little bit smaller, maybe last week I upplanted some of them into this bigger container. And what you can see is once you give the plants more root space to grow, from here to here, these plants are the same age, there's lots more side growth coming. So this is really going to start branching out and really start growing. There's actually 2 plants in here. And I just wanted to show you real quick the update on those herbs and how they're doing. And then this is a flat of cool weather greens. They're doing really well. Overseeded method for the lettuce. This is endive. This is bok choy right here. I thin that down to 1 plant. You don't want to overseed bok choy. Spinach, kohlrabi, single plant. Single leaf lettuces here, or loose leaf lettuces. I want them to grow to 1 big plant. This is Cleopatra oregano coming up. This is another variety of chives coming up. Kale, mustard greens. And you can see for the bigger plants like mustard greens, bok choy, kale, I thin them down, kohlrabi, to 1 single plant. I overseed the lettuces. The overseeded lettuces will go into a flower box. It's going to be densely packed in there. And when those leaves get to about this size, I cut them, leave the roots in, use this as kind of baby lettuce. The roots, because they're still in the ground, will send up more leaves. All right, let me get this out of the way real quick so I don't kick it over. Woo. And let's get to the strawberry bare roots. Now, if you've been watching my series, you know the first 2 episodes talked about all the different materials you're going to use, how to set it up, talked about sterilizing your starting mix. I use this bag now. You can go and buy turkey bags, the oven bags at the grocery store. Put your starting mix in there, pre-moisten it, microwave it for a minute to a minute 30 seconds. Keep an eye on it. Take it out, mix it around, do it again 2 or 3 times. That will sterilize your mix and keep fungus gnats from taking over your space. And knock on wood, I haven't had any problems this year. Same with the cocoa quartz, boiling water that goes into there. You want to make sure your starting mix is sterile. Never bring anything from outside into your seed starting area because you will definitely bring in fungus gnats, insects, molds, diseases. It's a problem. Now I have this water because I am bringing in, let's go with the strawberries first, then we'll get to the onions. Bare root strawberries. There's starting mix in here or a medium for the roots in here. There's a medium in this bag for the strawberry roots. They're going to have fungus gnats 99% of the time. Now, they may have already hatched and died and they're not viable. You know that they're going to come out here and hatch and cause a problem, but it's a risk, and I want you to be aware of that because you could do all this hard work and then you bring in something like this and it's a problem. Now, why do you want to bring it into your home now? Today's February 25th. The shelf life of these products, especially the ones in this kind of bag, sometimes it's a clear bag, but it's a $3 strawberry bare roots. I'm going to show you these in a second. These dry out really quick. So when they're put in the bags, they're set up, they're probably kept on cold storage. Then you come out to the shelves at, Walmart, it's 75 degrees in there. This starts drying out. The bare roots start drying out. So you want to buy this kind of product really early. When they come out in early February, get them out of this bag, and then you want to get them into containers, and I'll show you how to do that. Now, you go to Home Depot or Lowe's, you find these. These are $7.98. They're in a bigger bag. There are no holes in it. Let me just checking. The potatoes have holes. These don't have holes in here either, but they dry out pretty quickly. This kind of bag tends to hold the moisture better, so your bare roots stay viable, more viable when you get to them. All right, so let's start with the bare roots here. Now, when you open these up, your bare roots are just literally the bare roots of the strawberry plant, and then there's a crown on top. I'll show you the difference, because if you bury the crown when you're going to try and grow your strawberry plant, you're going to kill off the plant. So this is, and I like just try and keep the excess soil right in the bag and throw that away. Don't use that. So these are the bare roots out of this bag. There's a rubber band in here. Let me break that off. There's 10 of them, usually. And the first thing I can tell you is I don't see any kind of growth. Everything is brown. There's no white growth of new stems, no leaves, nothing coming out of here. That doesn't mean they're not viable, but they probably aren't. Every year that I try and grow these, and look how tiny they are. So you think you're getting a deal for $3? I don't think you are. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Well, 11. You get a little bit more. But a little bit more of something that's not going to grow. I mean, what's the point? So of all of these, this is the root system. This is the crown up here, and you can see old brown leaves. This is where the new shoots come out of. And if you were to plant this, I'm not even going to plant these. I even recommend don't buy these. I just wanted to show you what they look like so you know. When you plant a strawberry plant, you're going to plant it, if that's the soil level of my fingers, the roots go under the ground, of course, but the crown stays on top. If you put it in flower boxes, containers, or your earth beds, it should look something like this. So to me, these aren't even worth messing around with. And they're going to go right into the garbage. Now, you can go to Home Depot or Lowe's and you can pick this up. And these are $8, it's 10 crowns. And we're going to look in here and see how they look. You can also buy bare roots online. If you find a reputable dealer, it's probably better to spend $8, $10, $12 for the crowns because it is more economical if you want to set up a strawberry garden. But you don't want to end up with garbage like this. Now here, I'll show you. Again, we worry about fungus gnats, but look at the crowns. They've got life coming out of them. The root systems are much nicer, they're bigger. I can see white growth right here. So for that price difference of about $5, you're better off, picking these up. Now the kicker is, if I didn't already say it, today is the 25th. These come out in your big box stores in the beginning of February. You want to get to them, let me break this rubber band. You want to get to them quickly because as these are growing in the bag, I can also see some of them are starting to die off and rot. You can't hold these in the bag for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks because the plants will start dying. And luckily here we have tons of great growth. Look, 1, 2, that one may not have anything growing. 3, 4, all have growth on it. 5 growth, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 of these already have growth on them and we'll still plant that one. When these are sitting in the boxes, in these bags for 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks, they start dying. So you really want to get them out of the bag and into containers like this. And this is why you would start growing them indoors. If we take this outside, I'm still getting frost at night and it will be a problem because it will kill off any of the growth. If you have warming times right now where it's staying above 32, you can go ahead and just get these right out into the garden. Get them into your earth beds, get them into your containers. If you're planting them outdoors, and the frost coming isn't an issue. Strawberries do fine in the cold. It's just that hard frost coming, and we will still get a 20-degree night here in Maryland, Zone 7. It's just going to kill the plant back and slow it down. So I like to start them inside. So if you go and plant them in your flower boxes or in containers or in your earth beds, dig out some soil, make a mound, and drop the roots over the mound just like that. And then fill it to here and leave the crown above the ground and it will do perfectly fine. When you're doing them indoors, you're not going to be able to do that. That's okay. You're just trying to keep these alive. I also like to wash all these because of the fungus gnats. I'm just going to rinse off all of this. Hopefully, if there's any eggs or problems, they get caught in the water and not transferred to my garden. It's also good too, I like to soak them in here for about an hour and just hydrate up all the roots and everything. Don't worry, this is going to break off. This one already broke off. You just want to know that they're alive. Fill the soil up, or fill the container up halfway. I'm using coco coir. Press it in. You always want a nice solid base. That's about halfway. I'm just going to spread the roots out on top of that. Make sure the crown is going to stay above the soil level. Push that down. They're pretty tough plants, so if the crown was a little bit too low, you could pull it up, but you can see the crown sitting above the ground. That's ready to go under my grow lights. You could also take these outside, but I'll talk about, well, let me just say now. So if these were going to go outside, I might put them in a plastic container like this, and then I would put one of these bags under, well, I put the bag over this and then seal the top. You know, some air can still go in through the top. But I don't want fungus gnats and other insects coming, so I could just move this in and out when it's warmer during, when it's warmer during the day. These will do perfectly fine. Just bring the whole bag in at night, put them back out, and that's a nice way to get them growing if you're still having freezing temperatures in your area. But remember that if I just set these in here, took them in and out, insects and stuff would come and land on here, and when I bring them into this nice warm 75-degree climate in my seed starting area, the insects are going to fly other places and they're going to go into your seed start. So plastic bags are a good way to insulate the plants you move in and out from getting bugs and stuff like that. So I would basically let these soak for about an hour, set them all up like this, and that's how I get my strawberries started from bare roots. All right, let me clean this up and then we're going to get to the onions. All right, welcome back. We are going to get to the onions in a second. Real quick, I wanted to preview what's going to be in the next video, which I'm going to shoot right after this actually. This is a way to do some winter sowing. This is lettuce in here, and you can actually do this and you don't need to have grow lights. This is something you can take in and out during the day and night, and you can start your lettuces and your cool weather crops just like this. This is some kale that was maybe part of some of the seed starting videos of the first 2 episodes, but this was started on January 7th. This is growing under my lights, and I've actually been harvesting this and eating it in my salads. Of course, I got to buy romaine from the grocery store right now, but I can add in some perfectly delicious kales in here. There's a red Russian kale, a premier kale, and a blue Scotch curl kale, I think, in here. But you can grow, indoors perfectly fine under lights. One of the tips that I forgot that's really important that I wanted to say about the strawberries, when you go to Home Depot or Lowe's, it's just a metal bread tie around here. So just untwist it, take a look inside. If things look and smell bad, that means the green is rotting. Don't buy that. If you don't see any growth whatsoever, don't buy that. And if you see gnats fly out of here, don't buy that. But it's a nice way that you can check real quick to see how the plant is doing in here if you're buying it this way. We're going to do some planting in here. This is a setup for a prop. Okay, onions. Now you can buy onions 2 main ways, and I've got videos on this. These are your onion sets, and it says right there onion sets. I think it said 100 on here, and it's not too expensive. It was $4 for all of these. And again, you can open this box, you can inspect it. If it smells rotted, don't buy it. You're going to get 100 onions in here, and some of them are already starting to grow. I'm going to show you how to plant them. You can actually put them in flower boxes if you want, if it's deep enough, or in containers or out into your earth beds. But the problem with onions when you buy them as the sets like this, onions are biennials. So the first year from seed they grow, they start forming really nice onion bulbs, and that's what we want to grow, a nice big onion bulb. Some people grow them for the greens, but we typically want that bulb. Come the second year, because it's a biennial, the onion knows that it's already grown for a year and it wants to put up this big stalk and a flower on top and set seed. That's how it survives. So when you buy bulbs like this, sometimes you don't, or when you buy sets, you buy these tiny, baby bulbs, These onions, even though they're small, think they're second-year onions. And when you plant all these, you end up with a big flower stalk and a flower and not a nice bulb down below. That's up to you. I've not had great success in my area. I'm in Maryland Zone 7 again. And sometimes it depends on daylight. Like onions are short days, medium days, and long days. So you have to match the onions and the variety to the amount of light that you have over growing season. And you can just look up on the internet onion zones really, and it'll tell you what kind of onion to buy. So you do need to know a little bit of what you're buying. So when you open these up, these are all nice and firm. They're not dried out. They're not mushy. This one's actually a little bit dry. I wouldn't plant that one. But, you know, out of the first 8 that I pulled out, 7 are perfectly fine. The root system is right here. It's usually just these little nubs, but you can tell. And then the top has a shoot. If you don't know the difference, plant your onion sideways and it'll take care of itself. When you're planting onions like this, you want nice, loose container soil or earth soil so that the bulb can form. You can set it up really with any fertilizer you want. I recommend always staying around the 5-5-5. They don't necessarily need a lot of nitrogen, so if it has more phosphorus in there, that's okay, but don't over worry about it. A 5-5-5 general fertilizer. You're gonna plant these, you know, check the instructions. Let's see if I can see it real quick on here. It just tells you everything. Oh, planting tips. It doesn't say, or I can't see it because I need glasses at 52. Basically 4 inches to 6 inches apart depending on the variety. And you can, you know, pretend this is any kind of bed, nice and firm, but it's loose. Press it down, maybe a 1/2 inch to 1 inch. You're not going down really far, not like garlic, 4 inches apart. And, you know, 4 inches across. 1/2 inch to 1 inch down, and that's all you're going to do, and of course cover it up. And that's the best way to get your onion started. You can water it in with a water-soluble fertilizer of your choice. You don't have to overfeed your onions, and that's how you would use these onion sets. They're called sets, even though they're tiny bulbs. Now, this is a great way to buy them. These are called onion bunches, and it's basically onions that are started as seed. When they get to a certain size, they cut the tops, pull them out. These onions still think that they're first-year onions. And let me grab the water real quick. You can share the bath with the strawberry roots. You want to do the same thing and wash them, just to get off any kind of dirt, any kind of insect eggs. The onions you're not going to start indoors. You know, I just wanted to show you how you would take them outside. They can go outside right now in Maryland Zone 7. They can freeze, they can be fine, they can get beat up. They're almost indestructible. But you want to rinse them off, put them in water, get the roots wet, clean them up, and then you would just take, you know, when they're in water too, they're easier to pull apart. You're doing less damage to them. And you're just cleaning them up, getting them ready to go outside. And these are your onion bunches, and it's just a bunch of first-year onions. You can see how nice the roots are. Nice and white. The bigger ones have nice root systems. And I would go through, and for the bulbing onions, I would take the bigger ones just like this, separate them. Some of the smaller ones put to the side. I'll show you what I do with those. But just quickly go through them. Again, dropping the smaller ones to the side. So that when you're going to plant these in your earth beds, that's probably best. But then again, something like this, with maybe another 2 inches on it, you could plant in a row box. And you're not going to get huge bulbs, but you'll get something. And you can also cut the greens and use them in salads. So to do the onion bunches, let's just do 3. Again, probably 4 to 6 inches apart depending on the variety. You're just going to do a hole, maybe just go 2 inches deep. It's easier that way. This isn't quite 4 inches apart, but I just wanted to show you. 4 to 6 inches apart. You want to make the hole, you know, a good 2 inches deep, and you're dropping the roots so that they go straight down. Tuck in anything that's moving around. above the surface. So the roots are down there, but you're going to keep the onion up high. You're just making sure the onion roots are tucked in nicely. So you have the hole that goes about this far. The surface of the soil might be right here. You just want the roots to be nice and straight going right into the hole. They'll spread out and do their thing. And then the soil level is just going to be about a ½ an inch above. And that's, again, just to let the bulb form nicely right on the surface. And it would look just something just like this, 4 inches apart. You don't have to be gentle with the roots, just poke them in there. And then, 4 inches apart through here, 4 inches this way, maybe 6 depending on what you're growing. And this is how you set your onions up. These will take care of themselves. Water them in nicely. Give them a drink of water-soluble fertilizer. Now the smaller onions, there's no reason why they wouldn't grow nicely too. You could go ahead and do the same exact thing. But what I like to do with these is I actually put these in my containers and flower boxes, and I'll put 3 or 4 just into a space just like that. And I'm really growing them for small onions and for the greens, and I just harvest them when I need them. You'll still get some onion down here. You can pull out the whole bunch, but it's just a different way to do it. So this sets up how you would plant the onion sets, how you would plant the onion bunches. This is a great way to buy, and I don't know how many's in here, maybe 50, it's maybe like $4 or something like that. But I also like growing my own bunches, and that's what we did, I think, in video 2. This is an overseeded cell of Walla Walla onions. You pull it out, it's a big clump. I let them grow in here. There's 8, 12, 15 plants in here. It's the same thing as this. And I know that the tiny ones will grow into onions because that's what I'm doing up here. Just when I have, a bunch of big ones, I'll do those for the bulbs, and I'll do these for just the greens. So you can start these. These were started on January 7th, so these have been growing almost 2 months. They're coming up to size. When they get this size, actually, I put them into cups. These are some from the end of December. Put them into a cup just like this. Let them continue to grow. You can see they have more space. The roots haven't used up all the space. They're getting thicker up here. And in about a week, these will go out into my garden, and these are really nice onion bunches to do exactly what I did here. The difference in cost is this is probably, a penny a plant, because this is a whole packet of Walla Walla onions, which was about $2, some starting mix, and you can just see all the onions I have. So these are a couple ways that you can get onions into your garden. I recommend, if you're not going to seed start them, buy the bunches just like this. If you're going to seed start them about 60 to 90 days before they would go out into your garden, and you'll have really nice bunches that you can plant. And again, go ahead online, check out onion zones, and it will tell you what zone you're in and what you need to match zone-wise to the onions that you're buying. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm actually going to do a tour too, give you an update of everything that's growing, and I'm going to get working on the second video, which will be winter starting. I'm going to give you an update on the pepper growth, and I'm going to talk about how to plant the fruit vines that you buy at Home Depot and Lowe's. Thanks so much for watching. If you are interested, please check out my seed shop at www.therustedgarden.com, and I am selling shirts called The Rusted Garden. A garden wants to give what which I truly believe, and I talked about before. We give a lot to our gardens, but if we're having a bad day or a bad week, we go out into the garden and it gives back to us, and it kind of just gives us a boost of energy and makes the day a little bit better. Thanks for watching.